Invasion. According to the later chronicler Ibn Abd al-Kaham, the Tangier governor, Tariq ibn Zahad, led a raiding force of approximately 1,700 men from North Africa and southern Spain in 711. However, 12,000 seems a more accurate figure. Ibn Abd al-Kaham reports 1.5 centuries later that the people of Andalus did not observe them, thinking that the vessels crossing and recrossing were similar to the trading vessels, which for their benefit plied backwards and forwards. They defeated the Visigoth army, led by King Roderick, in a decisive battle at Godolet in 712. Tariq's forces were then reinforced by those of his superior, the Wali Musa ibn Nasser, who planned a second invasion, and within a few years both took control of more than 2/3 of the Iberian Peninsula. The second invasion comprised 18,000 mostly Arab troops who rapidly captured Seville and then defeated Roderick's supporters at Merida and met up with Tariq's troops of Talavera. The following year, the combined forces continued into Galicia and the northeast, capturing Leon, Astorga, and Zarzoga. According to the Muslim historian Al-Tarabi, Iberia was first invaded some 60 years earlier during the Caliphate of Uthman in the Rashida era. Another prominent Muslim historian of the 13th century, Ibn Kathir, quoted the same narration, pointing to the campaign led by Abd Allah bin Nafi al-Hussein and Abd Allah bin Nafi al-Abd al-Qazi in 32 AH. However, the putative invasion is not accepted by modern historians. The first expedition led by Tariq consisted mainly of Berbers, who had themselves only recently come under Muslim influence. It is probable that the army represented a continuation of historic pattern of large-scale raids into Iberia dating to the pre-Islamic period, and hence it has been suggested that actual conquest was not originally planned. But the Chronicle of 754 and later Muslim sources speak of raiding activity in the previous years. Tariq's army may have been present for some time before the decisive battle. It has been argued that possibility is supported by the fact that the army was led by a Berber and that Musa, who was the Umayyad governor of North Africa, only arrived the following year. The governor had not been deigned to lead a mere raid, but hurried across when the expected triumph became clear. The historian Abd al-Wahid Dahun Taha mentions that several Arab Muslims writers mention that the fact that Tariq decided to cross the strait without informing his superior and Wali Musa. The Chronicle of 754 states that many of the townspeople fled to the hills rather than defend their cities, which might support the views that was expected and to be temporary raid rather than the permanent change of governor. The Chronicle of 754 stated that the entire army of the Goths, which had come with him, Roderick, fraudulently and in rivalry out of the hopes of the kingship fled. This is the only contemporary account of the battle, and the paucity of detail led many later historians to invent their own truth. The location of the battle, though not clear, was probably the Gaudet River. Roderick was believed to have been killed, and a crushing defeat would have left the Visigoths largely leaderless and disorganized, partially because the ruling Visigoth population is estimated to have been a mere 1 to 2% of the population. While the isolation is said to have been a reasonably strong and effective instrument of the government, it is highly centralized to the extent that the defeat of the royal army left the entire land open to invaders. The result was a power vacuum, which may have indeed caught Tariq completely by surprise, which would have aided the Muslim conquest. It may have been equally welcome to the Hispano-Roman peasants, who were probably, as D.W. Lomax claims, disillusioned by the prominent legal, linguistic, and social divide between them and the barbaric and decadent Visigoth royal family. In 714, Musa ibn Nasir headed northwest to the Ebro River to overrun the western Basque regions and the Cantabrian Mountains all the way to Galicia, with no relevant or attested opposition. During the period of the second, or first, depending on the sources, Arab governor Abd Aziz ibn Musa, 714 to 716, the principal urban centers of Catalonia surrendered. In 714, his father, Musa ibn Nasar, advanced and overran Soria. The western Basque regions, Palencia, and the far west as Gijon or Lyon, where a Berber governor was appointed with no recorded opposition. The northern areas of Iberia drew little attention from the conquerors and were hard to defend when taken. The high, western, and central sub-Pyrenean mountain valleys remained unconquered. At this time, Umayyad troops reached Pamplona, and the Basque towns submitted after a compromise were broken with Arab commanders to respect the towns and its inhabitants. A practice that was common in many towns of the Iberian Peninsula. The Umayyad troops met little resistance. Considering the era's communication capabilities, 3 years was a reasonable time spent almost reaching the Pyrenees. After making the necessary arrangements for the town's submissions and their future governance.